The sun was setting on the small alien village of Verula, its skies painted with shades of purple and gold. Smoke rose softly from wooden homes, the air smelled of herbs and groundstone soup, and yet fear lingered behind every closed door. Leary, a small and fragile alien girl with deep silver eyes and skin like smooth lilac stone, sat on the rooftop of her family's hut. She hugged her knees and stared down at the new human stranger who had arrived only days ago. He was tall, calm, and quiet. His name was Eli. He had kind brown eyes and moved slowly, like someone who didn't want to frighten anything. The villagers didn't know what to make of him. Humans were rare out here, especially ones who didn't carry weapons. Eli had no armor, no machine gun, no sharp voice. Instead, he carried a bag filled with healing herbs, clean water, bandages, and warm bread. When Leary's younger brother had a fever, Eli had come to their home without being asked. He checked the boy's head, made a drink from roots, and stayed the night until the fever broke. Leary watched him the whole time. She noticed how gently he touched, how softly he spoke, and she thought, "This human is gentle. He wouldn't hurt even a worm." The villagers began to like Eli slowly. He repaired roofs, helped carry water, and always shared his food, but never talked about where he came from. Never. One day, Leary found him staring at the sky, silent, unmoving like a statue. "Are you thinking of home?" she asked quietly. Eli blinked and gave her a soft smile. "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe I'm remembering something I wish I could forget." She didn't ask more. She was shy like that. But something changed the next day. A group of warlord soldiers entered the village. 3 tall, armored creatures from the Korgan Empire. Cruel beings who ruled this land. They came often to collect gifts, food, tools, sometimes even people. Everyone froze when they arrived. Even the birds fell silent. Leary peeked out from her window and saw the soldiers walking past Eli. She expected him to smile and lower his head like the rest of the villagers. But Eli didn't move. His eyes followed the soldiers. Not scared, not angry, focused, like a wolf watching prey. Then something strange happened. As the soldiers left, one of them shoved a little girl hard into the dirt. Eli stepped forward quickly, helping the child up. The soldier stared at him and laughed. "Soft human," he growled. "Careful. You might break." Eli just nodded and said, "Then don't touch what you can't fix." The soldier's smile faded, but he walked away. That night, Leary couldn't sleep. Eli didn't come to dinner, didn't come to the fire circle, didn't even light his lamp. Curious and worried, Leary crept out of her home and walked through the quiet village. She tiptoed to Eli's hut and peeked through the window. He was sitting on the floor, shirt off, wiping his arms with a bloody cloth. Next to him was something strange, wrapped in dark cloth. She couldn't help herself. She tapped the door. Eli looked up, startled, then softened when he saw her. "Leary?" he said, voice low. She stepped inside slowly, eyes wide. "What is that?" she asked, pointing to the cloth. Eli paused. Then slowly he unwrapped it. A blade, not a simple one. It was black, curved like a claw, humming with faint blue energy, sharp enough to slice air. Leary took a step back, heart pounding. I thought you were a healer," she whispered. Eli looked down, voice calm. I try to be, but sometimes a healing isn't enough." Leary didn't understand, or maybe she didn't want to understand. "You're not just a gentleman," she said. "No," he replied. "Not always." Outside, the wind picked up. Somewhere far off, a soldier screamed, but no one in the village heard it. Only the stars above knew what Eli had done. And Leary, she wasn't sure if she was safe or in danger, but one thing was certain. This human had come for more than kindness. The village of Verula woke peacefully the next morning. Birds chirped, market stalls opened, and the baker's oven filled, the air with warm smells. But something had changed. Something the villagers didn't yet feel. something that moved in the shadows. Leary walked slowly through the square, her mind not on food. Her eyes kept turning toward Eli's hut. She hadn't told anyone what she saw, not the blade, not the blood, not the strange look in his eyes. She was confused. She liked Eli. He had helped her brother. He had fixed her mother's roof. But last night, he had looked like someone else, like a man made for war. She couldn't stop hearing his words. Sometimes, healing isn't enough. Just then, Eli stepped out of his hut. His face looked calm, as always, but his eyes, they were colder than before. "Good morning," he said gently. Leary tried to smile. "You're awake early." "Bad dreams," he said. She wanted to ask about the blade again, but she stayed quiet. Instead, she followed him as he walked to the healer's hut. There was a line of villagers already waiting, sick children, old men with wounds, women holding their bellies. Eli helped them all with soft hands and a quiet voice. Leary watched, trying to find the fighter she saw last night, but all she saw was kindness, until something strange happened. A little boy, maybe 5 years old, came running toward the healer's hut. His face was pale. His arms and legs were bruised. "Help," he shouted. "They took my sister!" The boy collapsed at Eli's feet. The healer ran forward. So did Leary. "Who took her?" Eli asked softly, kneeling. "The soldiers," the boy cried. "The ones from yesterday. They came back late last night. They said she was too pretty to live in a poor village. They took her." Everyone froze. No one spoke. No one moved, because they knew the truth. The Korgan soldiers could take whoever they wanted, and no one could stop them. Except, maybe. Eli stood up slowly, his face unreadable. "Which direction did they go?" he asked. The boy pointed to the hills beyond the river. Eli nodded. "I'll be back." He turned and walked away. Just like that, Leary rushed after him. "Wait, you can't go alone. They're armed. There could be 5, 10, maybe more." Eli kept walking. "I know," he said. Leary ran ahead of him, grabbing his arm. "What are you going to do?" He looked down at her, calm and soft, but something behind his eyes looked ancient, full of pain. "I'm going to get her back," he said, "because no one else will." Leary's voice trembled. "But you said you left that life behind." Eli stopped. He looked at the sky, then at the village behind him, then down at his own hands. "I buried the blade in the mountains years ago," he whispered. "Swore I'd never kill again." Leary swallowed hard. "But last night," he nodded slowly. "I didn't kill. I scared, I warned. I gave them one chance to walk away." He took a deep breath. "They didn't." Leary's heart raced. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Eli looked at her for a long time, then said, "Because if I don't, I'll become what I hate. A man who watches evil and stays silent." Leary stepped back. She saw something in him then. Not violence, not rage, but purpose. He was not a monster. He was not a hero. He was a man who knew what it meant to lose everything. He turned again, walking toward the hills. This time Leary didn't stop him. She just whispered, "Please, come back." Eli didn't answer, but as he disappeared into the trees, Leary saw the glint of metal flash at his side, the blade, not glowing, not humming, but ready. That night the villagers waited in silence. Leary sat by the fire, arms wrapped around her knees. No one knew where Eli had gone, or if he would return. Hours passed. The stars filled the sky. Then, a shadow appeared at the edge of the village. It was Eli. He walked slowly, carrying a small girl in his arms, safe, unharmed, asleep. Behind him, there was no one, no soldiers, no sounds, only the whisper of a man who had once promised never to fight again, and broke that promise for someone else's child. Leary stood up as he walked past her. "Are you all right?" she asked. Eli gave a tired smile. "My body hurts," he said, "but my soul hurts less." He walked into his hut, and closed the door. But Leary stood frozen, breath caught in her chest, because just before he entered, she saw it again. The village of Verula woke to the scent of fresh rain and silence, but it was not a peaceful silence. It was the kind that presses on your skin, like something is watching, like something terrible had happened far away, or far too close. No, one saw Eli the next morning. His hut stayed closed. No footsteps near the well, no smile at the healer's tent. Leary stood near his door, unsure if she should knock. The little girl he had rescued was safe and sleeping in her mother's arms. But Eli had returned last night with a blade stained red. Leary could still see it, clear as the stars. The blood, the quiet, the sadness in his eyes. She knocked. No answer. "Eli?" she whispered. Still nothing. She waited a little longer, then slowly walked away. But something strange began to happen in the village that day. The air changed. It wasn't fear anymore. It was whispers, whispers of rumors. The Korgan outpost to the east, the one full of guards, had been burned to the ground. No alarms, no sounds, no survivors, just ashes. Some said it was lightning. Others said a rival gang attacked. But Leary knew better. She wasn't sure how, but she knew. Eli had done it, and yet no one could prove it. The villagers had seen no fire, heard no screams, only the cold wind that arrived sometime after midnight. Leary returned to Eli's hut that night. This time she didn't knock. She stepped inside quietly. He sat in the dark alone, staring at the floor. His blade lay beside him, clean now, but still humming faintly. "I know it was you," Leary said softly. Eli didn't move. "I know what you did," she added, stepping closer. Still, he didn't speak. So she sat beside him, her small form almost childlike next to his still frame. "I'm not here to stop you," she whispered. His head turned slightly, just enough for her to see one tired eye. "I didn't want to be that man again," he said at last, voice cracked. But I saw her face. How scared she was. I remembered the past. I remembered others I failed. Leary stayed quiet. Eli closed his eyes. "I thought if I helped one child I could rest again," he said. "But when I saw the outpost, when I saw them laughing over the loot they stole from us, drinking from the same cup they beat that girl with, something inside me broke." Leary's voice trembled. "You killed them all?" "No," Eli said. "Not all." Leary looked at him, confused. "I left one alive," he said. "The leader." He crawled out, begging. I told him this village is no longer silent. If they come again, I won't just visit in the night. I'll bring the sun with me and burn every stone of their kingdom. Leary swallowed hard. "Do you think he believed you?" Eli gave a bitter smile. He saw the bodies. He saw how quiet it all was. No sound. No alarm. Just death. For a moment, they both sat in silence. Then Leary reached out and touched his arm. "I don't know if you're gentle," she whispered. "But I know you're not cruel." Eli turned to her surprised. "You fight for us," she said, "and you carry the pain alone." Eli looked away. "I don't want to be feared," he said. "You're not," she replied. "But maybe it's okay if they fear what you can do, so we don't have to be afraid anymore." He didn't speak after that. But when she left, she saw something new in his eyes, not sadness, not rage, but a small, painful hope. The next day, a messenger arrived from the outer towns. He brought news. The Korgan Empire had placed a warning on Verula. "Do not provoke. Dangerous outsider present." The village was stunned. For years they had been nothing, a name on no map. Now they were known and feared. But there was no attack, no revenge. No soldiers returned, because they were afraid. Afraid of a ghost. A silent killer in the night. Leary sat alone that evening, thinking. Eli had changed everything without asking for thanks, without speaking his name. He was still the quiet stranger with kind eyes, still helping the sick, still feeding the poor, but now he carried a shadow behind him, a shadow that watched, protected, and warned. As the stars rose above Verula, Leary whispered into the sky, "He's not just a healer, he's our shield, and they'll never break him." But even she didn't know what was coming next, because far beyond the mountains, the warlord himself had heard the name Eli, and he was not afraid. He was angry. 3 quiet days passed. The village of Verula returned to its soft rhythm. Children playing, firewood being cut, soup boiling in shared pots. But everyone walked a little faster, spoke a little softer, looked over their shoulder a little more. They were not sure whether to feel safe or cursed. Eli remained silent. He still helped at the healer's hut, still shared bread with the old ones, but the blade never left his side now, always wrapped in cloth, always humming like it was waiting. Leary noticed the change in him. He smiled less. He barely slept. He sharpened his blade even when it was already sharp. One night, as the wind howled through the trees, she asked him, "Are you preparing for something?" He looked at her for a long moment, then nodded. "They will come," he said. Not the soldiers. This time the warlord himself. Leary's heart stopped. "You're sure?" Eli didn't answer with words. Instead, he pulled a torn flag from his pack, the Korgan symbol, soaked in blood. "I left this for him," he said. An invitation. That morning the sky darkened. Before noon, heavy ships moved through the clouds like shadows with engines. A deep cold sound echoed over the land. Boom, boom, boom. The war drums of the Korgan warlord. Verula froze. Mothers clutched their children. Fathers locked their doors. Elders prayed, and Eli stood alone at the front gate. He didn't wear armor, only a black shirt and old boots, but the blade was at his side, fully unwrapped now. Its blue core glowed like lightning. Leary ran to him, chest pounding. "You can't face them alone. There are dozens of them, ships, bombs." Eli turned to her with calm, quiet eyes. "I won't face them alone," he said. She blinked. "What do you mean?" He looked past her toward the houses, the gardens, the people watching from windows. "I taught them how to dig trenches, how to aim a bow, how to move without being seen." Leary's mouth fell open. "You've been training them?" Eli nodded. "Every night after dark. While they slept, I prepared, just in case." She looked around and for the first time saw small signs, trap ropes hidden beneath leaves, stakes buried beneath soft sand, small piles of stones near every roof. She felt her heart race. "You did all this?" Eli looked up at the dark sky. "No, we did this." The Korgan ships landed with a hiss of steam and a roar of engines. From them came dozens of armored soldiers, tall and cruel, eyes glowing red under black helmets. And in the center, a larger figure stepped forward. The warlord. His armor was made from bones of creatures long dead. His voice was deep, echoing through machines. "I came for the one who calls himself Eli," he shouted. "I came for the coward who hides in a village of worms." Eli took one step forward. "I'm here," he said softly. The warlord laughed. "You killed my men like rats in the dark. Come now, little human, try it in the light." Leary stepped forward beside Eli. "No," she whispered. "You can't face him alone." Eli's hand moved protectively in front of her. "You shouldn't be here." "I'm not leaving," she said, eyes fierce. "You protected us. Now we protect you." To his surprise, more villagers began to step forward. First 2, then 10, then 20 men, women, even elders. They carried spears, bows, slingshots, anything they could use. The warlord growled. "You dare challenge me with peasants?" Eli smiled. "No," he said. "I challenge you with something you've never faced, people who've had enough." The warlord roared and raised his hand. "Burn the village." But before his soldiers could act, the ground beneath them exploded. Hidden traps, smoke bombs, spiked pits. The Korgan soldiers screamed as chaos erupted. From the trees came arrows, from rooftops came stones. From behind huts came warriors, and in the center, moving like a shadow, was Eli. His blade danced through air, silent, precise, deadly. He didn't shout, he didn't roar. He moved. Every swing of his blade cut through metal and bone. Every step pushed back the enemy. Leary watched in awe. He was not the gentle healer now. He was something ancient, something terrifying, something beautifully human. The battle raged for what felt like hours, and then silence. The warlord stood alone, bleeding, armor cracked. Eli stood across from him, chest rising and falling, blade dripping blue. "You were just a healer," the warlord hissed. Eli raised his blade. "I still am," he whispered. "But some wounds must be cut open before they can heal." With one final step, Eli struck. The warlord fell. The villagers cheered. Children ran. Mothers cried. Fathers laughed. Leary ran to Eli, who dropped to one knee, exhausted. She threw her arms around him. "You did it," she whispered. "No," he said, breathing hard. "We did." Smoke still hung in the air. The battle was over. The ground was littered with broken armor and scorched soil. But the village of Verula still stood, alive, free, shaken, but proud. And in the center of it all was Eli. Kneeling with one hand pressed to his side, blood ran from his ribs and a deep gash cut across his shoulder. Leary rushed to him, falling to her knees, her hands trembling. "Stay awake," she cried. "Eli, look at me." His eyes fluttered, open, tired, but smiling. "You're safe," he whispered. "Forget me," she sobbed. "You're bleeding. We need to—" "I'm fine," he lied. "Just a scratch." But he winced and his hand shook. Villagers gathered around them, their faces full of awe and fear. They had seen many things that day: fire, blood, victory. But the one image they could not forget: Eli standing alone before the warlord, blade in hand, eyes calm as stone. He had moved like no warrior they had ever seen, not wild, not angry, but like a man who had seen too much and carried it all in silence. He had fought with purpose, and for them. They carried him to the healers. Hut removed his torn shirt, cleaned the cuts, stitched the wounds. Eli didn't complain, didn't flinch. He just looked at Leary, watching her as if her face was more important than pain. "You stayed," he said softly. She nodded, holding his hand. "Always." He closed his eyes. Good. Word of the battle spread faster than wind. Tales reached nearby villages. The human with the silent blade, the monster slayer of Verula, the man who fought for the forgotten. Some called him a demon. Others called him a savior. But Leary knew the truth. He was just a man who chose to fight only when he had to. A man who gave everything to protect people who once feared him. As he lay recovering, she sat beside him every night, feeding him soup, changing bandages, reading stories. She told him about her childhood, her dreams, her fears. Eli listened quietly. Then one night he spoke. "I used to think fighting made me strong," he said. "But now I know. Being needed makes you stronger." Leary blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" He smiled faintly. "When I first came here, I was hiding. From my past, from myself. I thought if I stayed quiet, helped a little, maybe I could forget." He took a shaky breath. "But then I met you." Leary's cheeks turned warm. "You reminded me that kindness isn't weakness, that protecting others doesn't mean becoming a monster. You gave me a reason to be human again." She covered her mouth, holding back tears. "I thought you were gentle," she whispered. "But now I know. You're more than that." Eli looked into her eyes. "I never wanted to be a hero," he said. "I just wanted to be enough." Leary squeezed his hand. You already are. The next day, the villagers held a feast, not to celebrate victory, but to honor survival. The huts were decorated with flowers. Children danced. Old songs were sung under the stars. And in the middle sat Eli, his arm wrapped, his blade set aside. No one asked him to speak. No one asked him to fight. He was just Eli again. Leary sat beside him, laughing softly, her shoulder against his. For once, his smile wasn't tired. Later that night, as the stars blinked above, Leary walked with him to the river. The moonlight shimmered on the surface, silent and silver. Eli reached into his pack and pulled out the blade, still glowing faintly blue. It's done, he said. Leary's eyes widened. You're going to... He nodded. This blade has taken lives, hurt me, saved me, but it's time to let it go. He looked at her. I don't want to carry death anymore. I want to carry... life. Leary stepped close. You saved us with that blade, she said. But you changed us with your heart. Eli smiled. Then, with one deep breath, he threw the blade into the river. It vanished into the depths. Gone. For a long time, they stood in silence, side by side. Then Leary leaned her head on his arm. I don't care if you fight, she whispered. I just want you to stay. Eli looked at her, his eyes warm and steady. I'm not going anywhere, he said. Not as long as you want me here. She smiled. Then stay forever. The sword was gone, sunk into the dark river beneath the moonlight. The water had taken it, swallowed the weight of war, and with it, Eli's past began to fade. But healing doesn't come quickly, not to the body, and not to the heart. The village of Verula returned to its life. Shattered walls were rebuilt, new seeds were planted, children played again in the open fields without looking at the sky in fear. But Eli stayed inside. His body healed slowly. His muscles ached from every movement, but it was his heart that seemed tired the most. He had always kept his pain locked away. Now there was space to feel it. Leary came every morning. She didn't knock anymore. She just entered softly, with warm food and gentle words. She cleaned his wounds, changed the bandages, told him stories about village gossip. Sometimes he smiled. Sometimes he said nothing, but he always looked at her, like she was the only light in the room. One morning, Eli woke to find Leary already sitting beside him, a soft blanket wrapped around her shoulders. You fell asleep here? He asked, voice raspy. She rubbed her eyes, embarrassed. I didn't mean to, she said. I was waiting for your fever to go down. Eli tried to sit up and she helped him gently. You're too kind to me, he said. Leary gave a small smile. No, I'm just giving back what you gave us. He nodded slowly. I never thought I'd find this kind of peace again. Do you think it'll last? She asked, eyes soft. Eli looked toward the window where children were playing with sticks like swords. I hope so, he said, then paused. But if it doesn't, I'll still be here. Leary tilted her head. Why? He turned to her. Because you are. As the days passed, they began walking again. First, only to the front door, then to the garden, then to the riverbank, where the blade had sunk. Eli didn't speak much during those walks, but his silence was no longer heavy. It was gentle now, like still water. Leary walked beside him, close, but never too close. Until one evening, as the orange sun slipped behind the hills, she reached out and took his hand. He looked. At her surprise, does it hurt? She asked. He stared at their joined fingers. No, he said quietly. It's the first thing that doesn't. That night, a storm rolled over the village. Heavy winds, cold rain, crashing thunder. Leary ran to Eli's hut, soaked and breathless. He opened the door just as lightning lit up the sky behind her. You came through the storm? He asked. She stepped inside, shivering. I was afraid. afraid you might leave without saying goodbye. He shut the door behind her, eyes serious. I would never leave you, Leary. She looked at him, dripping wet, her small form shaking. I've seen strong warriors before, she said, but none of them ever stayed. He walked to her slowly, took a dry cloth and gently wiped her face. I didn't stay because I was strong, he said. I stayed because you made me want to live again. Her breath caught. You gave me a reason, he continued. Not just to fight, but to rest, to heal, to feel human again. Leary stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper. Then let me keep healing you. They sat by the fire together, wrapped in one blanket. Leary leaned into his side, and for the first time she felt no fear. Not of his strength, not of his silence, not of his past. Because she had seen the man beneath the blade, the man who protected, the man who bled, the man who stayed, and Eli. He leaned his head against hers, feeling warmth he hadn't felt in years, the kind that didn't come from sunlight or fire, but from trust. In the days that followed, people began calling him something new, the Guardian, not a killer, not a fighter, but someone who stood between danger and home. He no longer carried a weapon, but no one asked him to, because now they looked at him and saw safety, and more than that, they saw hope. One afternoon, as Leary poured tea, she said softly, I never thought I'd care for someone like you. Eli raised a brow. A human? She shook her head. No, someone who scared me. He gave a small smile. I scared myself once. She looked at him with glowing silver eyes. But now, you bring peace. Eli looked down at his hands. Maybe, this time I won't break it. Leary stepped close and touched his chest gently. If you ever fall again, she said, you won't fall alone. A full moon hung high over Verula, but this time it did not shine on a village hiding in fear. It shone on a village reborn. The homes were repaired, stronger than before. The people laughed louder, walked taller. Children no longer played with toy weapons. They played with paint, with music, with dreams. And in the heart of it all was Eli, no longer just a stranger, no longer just the quiet healer. He had become a symbol, not of war, but of change. Leary stood beside him at the edge of the same river where he had thrown away his blade. You look different, she said softly, her fingers laced with his. He smiled. Cleaner? She laughed. Not that. Lighter. Eli nodded, eyes on the water. It's strange, he said. I carried that blade for years. It saved my life, and ruined parts of it too. I thought I needed it. And now? She asked. He turned to her. Now I have something better. Leary blinked. What? He gently tapped her chest. A reason. Weeks passed. Travelers began arriving, curious people from other towns, asking about the battle, the blade, the human who saved the village. Some came for protection, others came for knowledge. A few came to fight but left in peace after seeing how Verula had changed. Because Eli didn't build an army, he built a place worth defending. One morning, a small alien boy with wide eyes asked him, Can you teach me to fight like you? Eli knelt and smiled. I can teach you something better, he said. How to make sure you never need to fight at all. The boy frowned. But what if bad people come again? Eli stood and looked across the village. Then we protect each other, not with swords, with truth, with courage, with unity. The boy nodded slowly, and something new took root in that moment. Not fear, not violence, but a future. Leary watched, all of this with quiet pride. She remembered the day he arrived, lonely, silent, carrying shadows inside him. Now he walked freely, smiled often, slept without flinching, and he had changed the village more than anyone ever dreamed. But one thing still bothered her. She found him one evening standing by the river again, staring into the water. Are you looking for your blade? She asked. He shook his head. I was wondering, he whispered, If a man like me can really stay soft forever. Leary stepped beside him, taking his hand. You're not soft, she said. You're strong enough to choose peace. That takes more strength than 100 swords. Eli looked at her. And what if I fail again? Leary smiled gently. Then I'll pick you up again, like you picked us up. Later that night, the village elders held a gathering. They asked Eli to speak. He stood before the crowd, unsure at first. Then his voice rang out. Simple, clear. I came here broken, he said. I carried pain I couldn't forget. I thought, if I hid long enough, the world would pass me by. He looked around at the faces, old, young, alien, human. But then I found something I didn't expect. Not just kindness, not just safety. He looked toward Leary. I found a place that didn't need a hero. It needed someone who cared. Silence fell over the crowd. Then came applause. Leary's eyes shimmered with tears, and Eli, who once fought, alone in shadows, stood tall in the light, surrounded by those who had become his family. One final time he returned to the river, this time not to throw anything away, but to remember. He stood in silence, then bent down and placed a stone in the grass. He carved a small mark into it, not a name, not a warning, just one word. Enough. Because that was what he had become. A man who had fought enough, bled enough, survived enough. Now he would live enough, laugh enough, love enough, and finally, rest enough. Leary joined him and placed her hand on the stone. What will people say about you? She asked softly. He thought for a moment. Maybe they'll say I was a fighter, he said. Or a killer. Or a hero. She raised a brow. And what do you want them to say? Eli turned to her with a smile. That I stayed, and he did not as a legend, not as a ghost in the night, but as a man who found peace among aliens and gave them something far greater than strength. He gave them hope.